The blank page staring back at you isn't a failure of discipline. It's a threat assessment. By the end of this, you'll understand the precise neurological reason why your best ideas and your worst anxieties come from the exact same place in your brain. This mechanism is running in the background of your mind every single moment, and learning to see it changes the entire game of creation. The foundation for this connection is a core personality trait called openness to experience. This is the engine of curiosity. It's the drive to explore new ideas, appreciate art, value complex emotions, and seek out novel experiences. People who score high in this trait are the world's artists, innovators, and thinkers. Their minds are drawn to patterns, abstractions, and possibilities. They have a fundamental need to deconstruct the world and reassemble it in new ways. This sounds like a superpower, and it is. This is the cognitive hardware that generates insight. It's what allows a musician to hear a melody in the rhythm of a passing train, or a writer to see a universal human truth in a mundane conversation. Their minds are constantly seeking and forming connections. This relentless curiosity is what fuels a creative life. But this engine has no off switch. The same mental machinery that is hungry for new information and complex patterns is also exceptionally good at generating new and complex worries. The mind that can imagine a beautiful sculpture from a block of stone can just as easily imagine a dozen catastrophic outcomes from a single unreturned text message. It's a system built for exploring possibilities, both the brilliant and the terrifying. And this constant exploration happens in a specific network of the brain that operates quite differently in creative people. That network is called the default mode network, or the DMN. You can think of it as your brain's imagination engine. It activates when you aren't focused on an external task. It's what's running when you're daydreaming, planning the future, or remembering the past. For most people, when they focus on a challenging task, the DMN powers down and the task-focused parts of the brain take over. The internal chatter quiets. But in highly creative individuals, something else often happens. Their default mode network stays active, co-activating with their executive control network. Their imagination engine keeps running even while they're trying to work. This is the neurological basis of the eureka moment in the shower. Your brain is connecting disparate ideas in the background, making novel associations that your focused mind would have filtered out. It's a tremendous advantage for problem solving and idea generation. It allows for a fluid, non-linear style of thinking. The problem is that this same network is also the seat of self-referential thought and rumination. When it's running, you're thinking about yourself, your relationships, your past mistakes, your future fears. An overactive DMN is the perfect incubator for anxiety. It endlessly simulates social scenarios, replays awkward conversations, and stress tests future plans until it finds a point of failure. You're trying to write a single line of code, but your brain is simultaneously running a full dress rehearsal of a difficult conversation you need to have next week. This internal crosstalk is a source of immense creative power. It is also mentally exhausting. But this internal state is only half the story. The other half is about how much of the outside world the creative brain lets in. Imagine your brain has a filter that stands between you and the raw sensory data of the world. For most people, that filter is set to a medium level. It blocks out irrelevant information so you can focus. The hum of the refrigerator fades into the background. The texture of the fabric on your chair goes unnoticed. The subtle emotional shifts on a colleague's face are smoothed over. The creative brain has a different setting. Its filter is dialed way down. This is a biological trait known as sensory processing sensitivity. Creative individuals literally perceive more. They register more subtle sensory information from their environment and process it more deeply. This is a profound asset for any artist. It's what allows a painter to notice 20 different shades of green in a simple leaf. It's what helps a director feel the slight dip in energy in a room and know the scene isn't working. They are swimming in a richer, more detailed, more textured stream of reality. But the nervous system has a finite capacity. This constant flood of information is incredibly stimulating. It can also be overwhelming. The same sensitivity that fuels artistic insight makes a crowded supermarket feel like a sensory assault. The open plan office isn't just distracting, it's physically draining. This is why so many creative people are mistaken for introverts. They aren't necessarily avoiding people. They are trying to manage the sheer volume of sensory and emotional data that comes with every social interaction. They need solitude to let their overstimulated nervous systems come back down to baseline. And this overwhelming flood of data gets wired into memory in a unique and problematic way. The technical term is latent inhibition. It's a filtering mechanism in the brain that allows you to ignore stimuli that have previously been deemed irrelevant. A high level of latent inhibition means you're good at tuning things out. You hear a car alarm once, register it's not a threat, and your brain effectively mutes it on subsequent exposures. Many creative thinkers have naturally low latent inhibition. Their brains treat every stimulus as potentially relevant, every time. This prevents them from screening out the details that can lead to novel connections and ideas. Combine this with hyperassociative thinking. Creative brains are wired to make connections between seemingly unrelated concepts. That's the very definition of originality. You connect the concept of a spider's web with digital communication, and you get the internet. You connect the grief of losing a loved one with the mathematics of space-time, and you get a masterpiece of science fiction. This associative superpower is what separates innovators from executors. But this exact same mechanism works on emotional memory. When you have a negative experience, your brain tags all the associated sensory data. The song that was playing, the time of day, the smell in the air. For a brain with high latent inhibition, most of those tags are weak. They fade. For a creative brain with low latent inhibition and a high associative network, those connections are powerful and persistent. A neutral stimulus becomes permanently linked to a moment of fear or shame. The world slowly fills up with triggers. A particular shade of blue can evoke a feeling of dread without you consciously knowing why. The opening notes of a song can cause a spike in your heart rate because it was playing during a painful memory you've long since forgotten. Your brain's brilliant idea-generating hardware has a side effect. It is an expert at manufacturing anxiety by creating a vast, intricate web of negative associations. This seems like a biological trap. It feels like the price of creativity is a life of pervasive anxiety. But the deepest connection is the most empowering one to understand. Every act of creation is an act of entering the unknown. The blank page, the empty canvas, the silent studio, these are spaces of pure, undefined potential. To the most ancient, survival-oriented parts of your brain, the unknown is functionally identical to danger. Your brain evolved over millions of years with a simple overriding priority: keep you alive. And the safest way to do that is to stick to what is known, what is predictable, what has been proven to be non-fatal. Your comfort zone is a survival strategy. When you sit down to create something new, you are deliberately stepping outside of that zone. You are making something exist where there was nothing before. This is, by definition, a disruption of the established pattern, and your nervous system registers that disruption as a potential threat. That feeling of dread and resistance you feel before starting a new project? That's your amygdala, your brain's threat detection center, doing its job. It's flagging the uncertainty of the creative act as a risk. It's trying to pull you back to the safety of consumption, of routine, of the predictable. The anxiety isn't a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that you're at the edge of your own capabilities. It's a physiological signal that you are pushing into new territory. The fear of the blank page is a rational biological response to confronting the infinite. The anxiety of sharing your work is the fear of social rejection, which for our ancestors was a death sentence. The creative process is a constant negotiation with your own survival instincts. The very friction you feel is proof that you are moving. A painter who feels no anxiety before a blank canvas is probably about to paint something they've painted 1,000 times before. The anxiety is the price of admission for originality. So, the creative mind is built on a set of paradoxes. A love of novelty that makes you sensitive to threat, a mind-wandering network that generates both brilliant ideas and looping worries, a sensory system that picks up the details for great art but gets easily overwhelmed, an associative memory that creates stunning metaphors, and a landscape of anxiety triggers. All of it is the same system. They are inseparable. You cannot have one without the other. The goal, then, is to stop trying to cure your anxiety. You can't medicate or meditate your way to a state where creation feels completely safe, because it is inherently unsafe. It is an act of vulnerability and exploration. The solution is to reframe the feeling. When that familiar knot of anxiety tightens in your stomach as you approach your work, you can learn to greet it with a different perspective. It's the energy of potential. It's the feeling of your nervous system coming online, ready to handle the complexity of the unknown. It's the compass telling you that you're pointed in the right direction, toward the edge. The most creative people aren't anxious in spite of their creativity. They are anxious because of it. Their brains are wired to see more, connect more, and feel more. That sensitivity is their greatest tool and their heaviest burden. The challenge is to learn how to carry it, to understand that the tremor in your hands isn't a sign to stop. It's the engine turning